So there's a lot of shit we need to get through. So take it away, lady in the radiator. What do you do when you don't have enough ideas to honestly and fairly change minds? You go after the children, of course, because they're the only ones who can't really fight back. Let me introduce you to safe schools.
Guides to supporting a student to affirm or transition gender identity at school. Ensure student privacy. Establish a support team. Establish timeframes. Use correct identity names and pronouns. Use correct identity names and pronouns. Most transitions will involve a use of new name and pronouns, he, she, they, etc., and it is crucial that the whole school makes an effort to get this right. These changes should be recorded in the written management plan and the new name and gender updated on school records prior to the transition date. This is the most crucial aspect of gender affirmation process and needs to be respected and forms the basis of provision faculties and creation of a respectful and positive environment for the student. Where appropriate, all staff should be briefed on a new name and pronouns before the transition date, and make a commitment to adhere to these changes. Mistakes are okay if a commitment and respectful intention to get pronouns and names are correct. Simple apologies and corrections are part of the adjustment process. Toilets and changing rooms. As part of the written plan, confirm the toilets, changing rooms, showers, and swimming faculties based on the student's gender identity and the faculties they will feel most comfortable using. Schools can also consider providing gender-neutral toilet options, which should be accessible to any student who wishes to use them and will help to establish a more inclusive environment for transgender and gender-diverse students. There is no requirement to use unisex or accessible toilet or changing room unless a student makes an active choice to do so. Continued use of unisex or accessible faculties can cause additional stigma and potential for discrimination. Prepare for community responses. The school leadership team should be prepared to respond to questions or concerns from parents or members of the broader school community. This can be as simple as affirming the facts of the situation and policy that applies while maintaining the confidentiality of the student and their family. For example, if someone asks why a student is wearing a girl's uniform, you can explain that the student is a girl and you should want her to feel as comfortable as possible at school. Safe Schools Coalition Australia can assist you to develop some affirmative messages to share with all staff to ensure that they are confident to respond to potential concerns across the school community in a consistent and positive way.
Bullshit. That's basically what it is. I've already talked about how disappointed I am in the school system, how broken I think the school system is, so really all I am is, well, disappointed. I kind of expected it, really. But the good news is a lot of people don't seem to like it. There's already a petition that I'll link below that talks about kids' rights and how we need to make sure the kids have the right to actually learn things that are correct and not have this stuff forced down their throats. There's also some other thing that I read about maybe the safe schools being looked at and the courses being halted, kind of like that petition that Sargon of Akkad did. Hopefully that'll improve things a bit, but there are still a lot of safe schools with this stuff in the country. And some people are saying that if their school that they send the children to ever do that, they're gonna pull the kids right out of school. And I suppose if that's the only thing that you can do is just find another school, then I suppose that that's a good thing. You don't want your kid coming home and saying that they're an other kin and they think you should be silenced because the thought police told them that you're too offensive or something. And on another note, this is child abuse. This is straight up child abuse. Especially if there's a small white boy walking into the classroom and then they're suddenly told that because they're white they have something to give to society because something is their fault. If they're a boy, then they're male, and that means that they are responsible for violence against women and they're probably gonna do it when they're older, so they better start relearning their behavior now because being a man is wrong. And they have to learn how to be an emasculated version of one, to be a safe man. That is abuse. That is bullying. I'm surprised that this stuff is in schools. I am surprised that we even got to this point. That is straight up bullying. I mean, people complain about bullying from other kids. What about bullying from the teachers? Because that's what's happening. That is what's happening and there's no excuse for it. You're gonna have people with psychological issues. You're gonna have people that hate themselves. You're gonna have people who constantly whip themselves for these imaginary demons that they think that they're responsible for in society. You're gonna be crafting this broken, bitter, dark lens and then making them wear it so that they can see the world in the same light that you see it because you're a bitter old fuck who doesn't understand what reality means. That is what I think of safe schools.
Sexy boys, fancy boys.
much salt would usually make you unhealthy, but this is nice salt.
I have no respect for women who voted for Trump.
2, you are loved, you matter, and your rights will be defended. And 4, once the shock of this all wears off, anger and resentment may set in, like some people we know. But we can't do it that way. We gotta do it a different way.
And we must give ourselves permission to grieve. But once we grieve, then we fight.
The funny thing here is that they're honestly saying that they're the rebellious ones. Like, they are the ones that don't have the power, that aren't fucking everything up, that aren't trying to silence people, and they're the ones who are fighting back, and everybody should root for them. Honestly, I think in their minds, they see themselves as this one person with this legion of other people standing behind them, rooting for them. And they see everyone who opposes them as just some old redneck who lives in some backwoods area who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. And that is such a broken thing to think. That is such a broken perception of reality. That's really what is being shown here from all the people who got so fucking triggered to the point where they're going around protesting. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Trump is a perfect guy by any means. Not at all. I for one think that this is a pretty fucked up election. I mean, how did you even get to this point? What is happening? But it just shows the bizarre kind of world that is being shaped by people who put on these lenses and just pretend that this is the real world around them, to the point where even if they were pretending before, they actually believe it now. And they refuse to change because they will not look at themselves in a way that is even remotely self-aware, no matter what anyone says. For example, I've mentioned before that my parents are kind of SJW-y. Like, they don't believe in segregation at all, so they're not that bad, but they do believe in the white privilege, male privilege. Everyone who disagrees with me is a conservative redneck, blah 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 blah. That's the choice words that they use. They think that if they call you a redneck or a right-winger or a conservative, that you're automatically not worth arguing and you shouldn't be listened to, and they're completely in the right to just change the channel to the person who says whatever they think is conservative or right-wing. Just change the radio station, just say that the discussion is over. So the buzzword thing is also a pretty big deal as well. I remember this one time where the TV was on and they were doing some sort of report on how domestic violence affects men as well. It was one of those really rare times where you're actually really grateful that someone, at least on TV, is talking about these things. And my mom was sitting there and she saw that bit and then she laughed at the TV and she was like, yeah, right, what kind of reality are they living in? If anything, more men need to be arrested for doing all this horrible stuff to women. Not enough are being found out. Like men go through any domestic abuse whatsoever. The fact that men are trying to speak out about the things that they're going through is laughable. That is honestly one of the worst things. People speaking about the stuff that they've been going through because they're sick of silently suffering is somehow laughable. And I see that reflected in the media as well. If a guy goes through something, then people laugh. But if a woman goes through it, then it's suddenly the most horrible thing on earth. That's the kind of double standard that's not being seen as a double standard. People aren't realizing because they don't have the self-awareness because of that echo chamber that they're stuck in. And they're probably going to be stuck in it forever. Then there's also the it's okay when we do it kind of thing. Like with Brexit, my parents were perfectly fine with people going against the vote and going against the democracy and saying, no, it's okay if they do it again because the right people should be in charge. It's okay when we do it because the right people would be in charge. As if having a certain group of people always in charge, a certain group of people with a certain group of values always in charge is not somehow a bad thing because people could be perverted by power. The whole people who think exactly like me need to be in charge because I know that I'm just right in every single way. The same thing with the Trump thing. They're like, wow, Hillary should have won, and people want to do a redo of the election. We should let them do it because they're the right people. And then after that initial disappointment and outrage, they enter this kind of smug thing like, well, they didn't know what they were into, but then they'll see why they should regret it. They'll see. Then maybe they will know to vote for the right people next time. Sort of thing that I'm also seeing in the media. So even though I don't live in America, I do definitely understand what's happening over there because a lot of the stuff in the media is being reflected in my parents.
Since you voted for Donald Trump, you can get your shit and get out. The suitcase is packed by the door. Yeah, been packed it since this morning. Bye. Matter of fact, and get your sign so when the people see you outside, they know why you're standing out there. Here you go. Now, here, take your sign. Get up. Come on here. Come on. Everyone, come on here. Let's go. Come on. Take your sign. Bye. Let's go. You wanna vote for him? I'ma show you. Come on. Okay. Move. Okay. Let's go. Here's your suitcase. Bye.
Now, this lady kicked out her son because of this mock election that they had at school, and then he voted for Trump. And maybe he just voted for Trump not because he thought he was great, but because he thought it was funny. How do you know? And apparently she's being dealt with by police or something. I'm not entirely sure about that, but, you know, I mean, I don't want to punch this lady in the face. What are you talking about? Where did you get that from? I don't want to break her jaw or anything. And this is stupid. No wonder people want to keep their opinions private. When you have people that are going to harm you, are going to try and destabilize everything that you have, are going to just outright, just like scream in your face, why would you want to talk? People are calling people who don't want to outwardly put themselves out there with their opinions cowards. Well, if you're being faced with this kind of stuff, then of course you don't want to do it. Especially if you have something to lose. So people aren't being cowards, they're just scared, rightfully so, because of the maniacs that are going around with this stuff. And one thing before I move on from the Trump thing, Computing Forever did this really good video on how Trump is Emmanuel Goldstein from 1984. And it made a lot of sense and he worded it really well, but I just wanna add to that. Some people did vote for Trump because not because he's Trump himself, but because of the kind of symbol, like the whole anti-establishment kind of thing, the whole just, you know, people are just kind of sick of that status quo that's just been stagnant and festering and they wanted to change. But we have to be careful because Trump is still a person at the end of the day. And what do people do best? They fuck up. They make mistakes. They make bad decisions. So we have to be careful because he is in no way a perfect person at all. Some of the stuff that he says might be outright crazy. So we have to make sure that when he does fuck up and do something stupid, we have to critique it in a way that we would critique anything else. We can't just uphold him to this standard where no one is allowed to criticize him because of the symbol that he represents. That would be making him some sort of deity or divine power in the same way that SJWs kind of do the opposite with the patriarchy or whiteness or whatever. They kind of make it this Satan-like evil thing that no one can really defeat, that you can't really see, but it's everywhere. It's this kind of magical force that isn't really just certain people. It isn't really like, it's more of like an atmosphere or a representation of something, and you can't really accurately criticize it because you don't really know what the fuck it is anymore. You know, and if we don't criticize him, you'll get this group of people on one side who will not criticize him in any way whatsoever and even defend the most outrageous things that might come. And then you have the other side who are gonna completely attack him at every single point. And when he does fuck up, then they're going to attack him on that, but not in an honest way. They're not going to honestly see what he's saying. They're just going to say, see, this proves that we're right for attacking this guy and demonizing him on every single point. Because what he's done now is justify it. And then they're going to see the bunch of people who will defend everything that he does and point to them and use that for more justification and say, these are all of the people who support this guy. Every single one of them, and make a complete generalization and use that to fuel more of them attacking him. So that is not going to be a pleasant thing. Because at the end of the day, we don't really know what's going to happen next.
Am I loud and clear, or am I breaking up?
So it's no surprise that the media was lying. Huffington Post, BuzzFeed, CNN, all of them. The distortion of reality is really a weird thing to witness. But really, their reactions are more interesting. To being called out, that is. Their complete denial of everything. I mean, when that research came out that said that the trust for the media was at a really, really low place, they blamed the viewers. They said there was something wrong with their viewers. And I would imagine that made the trust decline a bit more. They refuse to have any self-awareness whatsoever. It can't be us, it must be them. We aren't the ones that are spinning around, the entire room is just moving. And either that or they just double down and not even acknowledge any of that stuff. Certain media outlets don't even mention that and just keep on going with attacking people with these names and promoting all of these flawed ideas and trying to shame people for not agreeing with them.
There's nothing here that you'll miss.
Hey you, yes you, do you want to be a tree? Well, now you can. Thanks to SJW Incorporated, you too can be a tree. You can be ecosexual. From the people who brought you 76 genders comes another retarded idea. Okay, so it's not people wanting to be trees, but it is still pretty ridiculous. Ecosexuals are people who think that they can save the earth by fucking it. Yes. So, either fucking a tree or rolling around in the dirt and having an orgasm because you're attracted to the earth. It's like those people who are attracted to fences and roller coasters. It's just odd. I mean, at least the people who are attracted to fences and roller coasters aren't self-righteous and saying that they're somehow better than everybody else because of it. But wait, what if the earth didn't consent? Is that earth rape? Like, how can the earth actually give consent? You don't know. And what happens if you rape the earth? What kind of penalty do you get? Do you get, like, catapulted into the sun or something? Can we catapult all SJWs into the sun? But I digress.
Ecosexuals believe having sex with the earth could save it. If you happen to find yourself in Sydney this week, you have the unique opportunity to have sex with the earth. You just need to stop by the Ecosexual Bathhouse, which is currently part of the Sydney Liveworks Festival of Experimental Art. The bathhouse is an interactive installation created by the artist who described the work to me as a no-holds-barred extravaganza meant to dissolve the barriers between species as we descend into oblivion, as the result of our global environmental crisis. But they also see their piece as a part of a much bigger ecosexual movement, which they say is gathering momentum around the world. They might be right. Jennifer Reed is writing a dissertation on ecosexuality and says that the number of people who identify as ecosexuals has increased markedly in the past 2 years, and Google search data confirms that interest in the term has spiked dramatically over the past year. We may look back on 2016 as the year ecosexuality hit the mainstream. Ecosexuality is a term with wide-ranging definitions, which vary depending on who you ask. Amanda Morgan, who is involved in the ecosexual movement, says that the ecosexuality could be measured in one sense, not unlike Kinsey scale. On one end, it encompasses people who try to use sustainable sex products or who enjoy skinny dipping and naked hiking. On the other are people who roll around in the dirt having an orgasm covered in potting soil. She said, "There are people who fuck trees or masturbate under a waterfall."
So from what I've seen of Vice, they're kind of becoming a step away from BuzzFeed, so I mean, I guess we have to take it with a grain of salt. But it is pretty funny nonetheless to see this unfiltered bullshit. But still, where is the consent of the earth? Does every ecosexual man rape the earth because only men are rapists? And can females, once they have sex with the earth, revoke their consent? And then the earth has to be put on trial? Like, do we have to bring the tree into the courtroom and say, "Were you drunk on this night?" Like, if you fuck a tree, do you have to learn how to speak tree? And then ask the tree if it's consenting? I know it's an art project, and art's supposed to be wacky and weird. I get it. I love David Lynch and Alan Resnick. Alan Resnick's probably one of my favorite people out there. You know, him working with Wham City for This House Has People in It and Alan Tutorial is fucking amazing. So art is supposed to be wacky and weird, but once you get so preachy, like this environmental stuff is so preachy that it's not even artwork. It's so preachy it belongs in a church now. And modern art, you get the good stuff where you get it, but a lot of it is just, it's stupid. I also walk into an art gallery and I see a canvas with red lines on it, and that's somehow a masterpiece. I don't get it. It's got white and red stripes. I don't get it. Or feminist art where like they put the paint, like eggs full of paint, in their vaginas and then like squeeze them out. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. And then talking about ecosexual pride? Okay, when you have pride movements like LGBT and whatnot, they're usually just coming from places where people in society in the past have told them to repress that or have oppressed them. Really. That is really what it is. And if you ask me today, I don't really see the relevance in some of these pride movements. I personally don't see the relevance in having a Black History Month, for one. I don't really see much of that relevance in this Western world, at least, because we're pretty accepting, and there are some problems, but very few of them actually relate fully to race or any of the stuff that is in the past. So, especially with affirmative action and, you know, like minority-only scholarships or women-only scholarships, I think in the past, if it might have been for disadvantages and whatnot, I think we really need to do away with some of them because white people and men go through the same stuff now. Everybody has their own thing that they go through, and I think that these affirmative action things and these certain types of pride don't really don't really seem that relevant. And if you're going to have that pride, fine, but you should allow other people to have their own pride as well. Just, don't label them as racist or sexist if they just want to celebrate stuff as well. But aside from that tangent, they're already trying to play the victim card. They're already going, we need to be proud of our ecosexuality. People are saying that you're crazy because you are crazy. It's got nothing to do with this oppressed sexuality that was around for ages, but just people never really just treated you right. It's stupid. This is stupid. This is what comes from social justice and overly high moral standards, and I just don't understand. We don't treat men like shit in this society. We don't try and put out a certain study and then get the study completely wrong and emasculate them and shame them in front of everyone. Oh wait.
Male birth control study killed after men report side effects. Whether it's a IUD, a shot, an implant, or birth control is a regular part of many adult women's lives. It has left a lot of women asking, why not men? How did this latest study work? It was a pretty big study. They gave shots to 320 men every 8 weeks, in different countries around the world. The shot contained 2 hormones and it worked pretty well. It knocked down their sperm count significantly, and there were only a handful of pregnancies among partners of men in trial. There's been a lot of eye-rolling in the internet about these side effects, because women have been experiencing things like mood swings and weight gain for decades with hormonal birth control.
So you can play the victim and the warrior at the same time, saying that you're oppressed in society, yet you go through things that men can't go through. And then say that you need special treatment because you're somehow weak. I don't understand how this goes. Then you freely put this shaming of men article out there and swear up and down that the patriarchy has this
But we can't do it that way. We gotta do it a different way.
to keep you down and control you. I don't buy it. Because I know if there was a role reversal of everything that happened and all the attitudes that happened here, and men came out with this article, even slightly saying something that might be a jab at women, they would be completely torn apart by society. Males and females are different. I see the condom being a staple for men in protected sex, but I don't really see many women using the female condom, at least not from what I've seen. Birth control works for women. Maybe it might not work for men, and I'm not saying that people should stop trying. People can keep trying if they want to develop something, but in the end, if it's more difficult, then maybe it's just because the genders are different. And not all of us are men, so how do we know that the pain that men feel at side effects are just what women have, but they're weaker than women all of a sudden? Maybe men are experiencing an amplified version of the side effects. You don't know because you're not a man. And the worst part is that everything that I've just responded to isn't even what happened. The thing was shut down because of an outsider kind of group related to the World Health Organization that raised awareness and concern for these side effects, for certain side effects, and then people were like, oh, okay, we better shut this down. It wasn't because the study was abandoned because some whiny man put his hand up and went, I'm too weak to handle what women go through every day. But of course you're going to spin it that way, aren't you? They are of course going to put a certain group of people above themselves and then claim that they need to beat those people down to their level. You know, when we consider this and the environmental determinism thing that Crash Course came out with and deleted, you know, them saying that it was racist, if we mix this with that, it almost sounds like they're saying that white people and men are actually genetically superior to everyone else. Like, they sound like storm fags. I mean, think of it this way. Think of it like certain people who see black crime and they somehow need to protect black people from getting the consequences for doing crime and should somehow abolish the police and law because black people should not be put up to the same standards as white people, as if black people somehow can't take that, as if they're too weak to take that. And then you see the other type of thing where a drunk man and a drunk woman have sex. And then the man is somehow supposed to be fully capable of everything, fully capable of thought, and he is supposed to take full responsibility for his actions. Yet the woman is supposed to not do that at all, because she's somehow too weak-minded and the alcohol just overwhelmed her and she can't take any responsibility. And then you put that together with the white men are, and white people are, and men are, like naturally born this way, and they need to unlearn stuff that they're born with. You're pushing the angle that they're somehow genetically superior and that everyone else is genetically inferior, and that's why the inferior people need special privileges. That is really what it sounds like. It's so bizarre. It is just really weird, because in my limited experience on this earth so far, I have never seen The horseshoe theory, so perfectly put in life. What a time to be alive. So over here, by the time I upload this, it is the 19th, and it's International Men's Day. And since people really don't talk about it that much, and you'd expect what kind of reaction feminists would get to it, I am just going to at least try and promote it every time that it comes around, because I do think it's important. And I think that we should take the time to go around to every important man in your life and maybe do something nice for them, or at least ask them how they are, if they're okay. And to every guy out there who is watching this video is for you. I mean, even on my calendar, I have International Women's Day written on the calendar, but I don't have Men's Day written on the calendar. And I'm not about to go nitpicking and complaining about fucking calendars, but I still think that that's a bit odd and it's a bit sad, and I don't see why Men's Day cannot be on there as well. And look, I'm still not sitting on the couch, but I'm sitting in front of the couch, but it's a different couch. I hope you're not clutching your pearls too tightly. Hope that didn't completely break everything you knew about reality. Hope you can handle it. I've never been good at video outros, so I don't know, if you enjoyed this video, get some muscle over here and Melissa, click that like button, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's a good one. Hang on, I'm gonna kill myself real quick.